Welcome to Film and Page. I'm Dominic, and this is another episode of A Road to Dune. So the story I'm going to be talking about here, it's not a huge story. It's just about the sandworms and what Denis Villeneuve had to say about it. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was the announcement for the Bene Gesserit series that was put up on Warner Brothers' website there for HBO Max. But first, we'll get into the worms. Dune director Denis Villeneuve spent a year perfecting the sandworm design. There has not yet been a truly successful adaptation of Frank Herbert's seminal sci-fi classic Dune. Directors have tried and failed to bring Herbert's dense sci-fi novel to the small screen and big, but ended up stumbling over the more audacious and weirder parts of his story. That is why Denis Villeneuve is working hard to get every little detail right about the sandworms for his upcoming feature film adaptation. Now, I gotta mention something about this first paragraph here. They always clump, this kind of annoys me with a lot of these websites, they always clump the miniseries in with the David Lynch Dune. Like they always just assume, oh yeah, the miniseries that failed too. It didn't. That did not fail. Like they keep repeating that. Like, oh, well, no one can remember the miniseries, or it was so forgettable, and it was a dud like the 84 film. It was not. It was not a dud. That, to me, proved that Dune can work, at least on the small screen anyway. That was not a failure like the film was. But anyway, let's continue. The giant, deadly monsters that inhabit the planet of Arrakis are essential to the narrative of the story, even as they've been the subject of many phallic comparisons. So Villeneuve spent the better part of a year perfecting the design of the sandworm, so that they and his Dune can be taken seriously. In a recent interview with Empire magazine, Denis Villeneuve described the year-long process that went into designing the sandworms, the original inhabitants of the desert planet of Arrakis, the only planet in which the highly demanded psychotropic drug known as spice can be found. We talked about every little detail that would make such a beast possible, from the texture of the skin to the way the mouth opens to the system to eat its food in the sand. It was a year of work to design and to find the perfect shape that looked prehistoric enough. So that's interesting that they took that much attention and detail and time to actually design the worms. I'm actually really impressed like that. So now I really want to see what the worms are going to look like. Hopefully we get to see the worm in the trailer, whenever that drops. The imagery of the sandworms are synonymous with the Dune series, appearing in almost every installment of the saga, and gracing the cover of many a Dune book. Though Herbert's inspiration for the sandworms of his series were the dragons of European mythology that guard treasure, a popular image of the sandworm comes from David Lynch's 1984 film, which depicted the massive creatures as fleshy, phallic-looking monsters. I gotta say something about that, too, about this article. The sandworms in Dune look very, very close to John Schooner's artwork that he did for when Dune was released in two parts in a magazine, and he also did the cover for Dune, and he did a bunch of Dune artwork for Frank Herbert. And pretty much that's what the sandworms look like in all those paintings. They look like the David Lynch sandworm. So that classic image, or that most iconic image we see of the sandworm, is actually from John Schooner's artwork and not really the 84 film, because the 84 film, obviously they looked at that artwork. There's no two ways around it, because sandworms look pretty much like the sandworms from John Schooner's painting. It's actually quite an impressive design, but the inappropriate comparisons are something that I'm sure Villeneuve wants to avoid, though we have yet to see what the sandworms of Villeneuve's Dune look like. They're apparently cool enough to earn Javier Bardem's obsession. So, interesting article, and yeah, I really want to see what they're going to do with the worms. Like, how many ways can you make a sandworm? I don't know. I'm just thinking about that now. Like, what can you do different? The worms, they just look like giant worms, like earthworms you pull out of the ground, except they got like the big opening mouth. So yeah, and I'm curious to see what they're going to do. I'm really curious. So that's that story. So now, the last thing I wanted to talk about is this here. Over on the Warner Brothers website, I believe it was the Warner Brothers website, they did a listing of all the shows that are going to be on HBO Max. And one of the listings was for Dune: The Sisterhood. So this was the listing, but no cast or no date or nothing. A lot of the shows have dates, but this one didn't. Dune: The Sisterhood, Max original drama series. Synopsis: an adaptation of Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson's book based in the world created by Frank Herbert's Dune. Dune: The Sisterhood explores this universe through the eyes of a mysterious order of women, the Bene Gesserit, whose extraordinary mastery of body and mind allow them to expertly weave through the feudal politics and intrigue of the Imperium. Cast to be announced. Credits: Director Denis Villeneuve. Executive producers Denis Villeneuve, John Spates, and Dana Calvo. And Brian Herbert, Byron Merritt, and Kim Herbert for the Frank Herbert estate. Co-producer Kevin J. Anderson. Premiere is upcoming. And then some email contact. Don't know what that is. So yeah, this series, I'm kind of curious if, just say now, I hope I don't want this to happen, but just let's, hypothetically speaking, Dune comes out in December and completely bombs. Are they still going to go forward with this series? That's what I'm curious about. Because now the only thing, maybe they might still go forward with it because I don't know how many people remember when Stargate came out in theaters. Like before the Stargate series, before any of that. Stargate came out in theaters. I don't remember or not, to be honest, if that was a huge hit or not, but I don't think it was a massive hit. I think it was either just a moderate hit or somewhat of a failure. I'm not quite sure. But I know it wasn't like a big movie like Star Wars or The Matrix or anything like that. And then they still decided to do a series based on Stargate. And the Stargate series actually became way more popular and completely eclipsed the movie it was based on. So when people think of Stargate, they think of all the Stargate series like Stargate, Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe, all those Stargate series. And like the movie that came out, that's almost like kind of like in the memory hole now. No one even really thinks about that. So is it possible if Dune, say it does okay, but it doesn't make huge money, or even hopefully it doesn't flop? But I mean, there's the chance. I don't think it's going to flop because it's a bad movie, though. I think it's going to flop just because people won't know what it is or get it, and they won't go see it. But I'm wondering if that's the case, will they still go forward with this series? Obviously, they can't do anything with it now because of the whole pandemic thing, but going forward, I wonder, will they still go through with it if Dune flops? So I don't know. Be curious to see. So yeah, interesting article on the sandworms, and I'd like to know, like, what kind of variation are they going to have on the worms that we haven't seen before? Because on film, we've only seen 2 variations so far. We've seen the David Lynch and then the miniseries. So I'm curious to see how they're going to handle this or what they got in mind. Can't wait to see it, and hopefully we get a trailer soon. Like, it's got to be coming soon. It's got to be coming. Like, it's almost June now. It's gonna be like 6 months away, or even less than 6 months. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one. I'd like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you all in helping this channel grow. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded.